I did my internship for a company called HHI. They're a company based out in Ogden, Utah, and they had me go out to there to train at first. The training took about 2, 3 days, and I went out there and I learned how to use a boom lift. I learned how to use a forklift. I learned how to drive a gale, and it was all new experiences for me. So it was really cool to be able to use those machines and to use them correctly and safely and to get licensed in them so that I'm able to take that into other companies. So I learned how to use those three things. And then I came back to California and I had to wait about a month. And then the project actually was a project in the Air Force Base. It's called the Edwards Air Force Base. And it was a high clearance area. So we had to get special permission to go in. We had to have badges and they scanned it every single morning. We couldn't take pictures of the chamber in which we were working in, and there were security guards that would shut the door every single time we would leave and have to open it every single time we came back. So it was high clearance, and that was something new for me. I'd never been in a place that was high clearance, and we had to get special badges just to even go in the chamber. And so it was kind of awesome to see how the government operated in that kind of sense. And basically we went in there and there's these foam boards and they're about a foot in length, and we would have to replace those because they were installed first originally in the 80s. And so our first project was to scrape them off of the glue, and the glue actually lasted a long time, and it was actually very strong when we scraped them off. So we had to scrape them off, and that took about a month, and we were just doing the back wall, and we were doing a third of the ceiling. And then after that, we had to glue on the ram board pieces. It was kind of a cool experience because I kind of got to see behind the scenes. I got a chance to look at the blueprints. I got a chance to see how RFIs work and what you should say in them and the correct language to use them in. But I'd say the most important thing that I learned there is that to finish the job correctly and like communication. When we were working there, there was 2 shifts that we had to go in, and the shifts just weren't getting along at all. And it actually made it where the work was delaying, and that we would come in and we would see the shifts just for about an hour, and we would just be as awkward tension that one shift would think another way, another shift would think another way. And we really had to go in and fix that so that we're able to go in and be on track. A really cool fact about HHI is that they never have finished a project late for 50 years. And we really wanted to do that and accomplish that in a sense, and we wanted to do a good job. The hard part was that the ram boards that we got, their cuts were awful. The original cuts on them when they installed them originally in the 80s was really good. They were perfectly square, 24 inches by 24 inches, but we got in there and they were really off. So we had to make shimmies, and we had to fill in gaps, and we just had to do our best. And there's a chalk line, and we followed the chalk line. Some of the ram board pieces were 24.5 inches, some were 23.5, some were even 23. And so when we were lining them up on the wall, it was awful. We had to improvise, and we had to make little shims and put it in there so that it can all be even, so it wouldn't be crooked. I think that was a really good lesson I learned too, was that, it doesn't have to be perfect. The things that we have, the material on the job, is not going to be perfect at all, but we have to make do with what's best. Our manager, he sent a lot of RFIs to the government, and then he sent some RFIs back to the manufacturer who shipped it to us. And pretty much they kind of came down to saying that, okay, you guys have to do it and do it perfectly, pretty much. And so that was the goal that we were trying to do, is that we had to have no gaps in there with a product that was not perfect. And so it made it really hard, especially on the ceiling. It was really hard because we're fitting everything and your arms are getting tired. It happens very, very slowly. And so when we installed everything, we had to go back and we had to double check and even triple check to make sure that there's no gaps. And it took a lot longer than normal. So I think that was a great thing that I learned in the internship, is that materials aren't perfect. You know, us as humans, as we work, we're not perfect, but we do have to fulfill a contract. Another thing that I learned is how important relationships are. I was able to make a lot of friends, and most importantly, I was able to get to know the managers at the company, and they are really good guys. But now I feel like that I do have connections inside the company. You know, I worked really hard in the internship. I tried to be as diverse as I could be. I installed RAM board in the ceiling and and in the wall. I drove the gale. I took out the trash. I helped clean. I tried to do a little bit of everything so that they would notice and just be like, wow, this guy is very diverse. And I just wanted that for them to think that I was diverse, so that when I go to them, you know, I can do anything that they ask me to do, and I was able to do it. And I think that's what a special employee is, you know, when he's asked upon, that he's able to perform the actions in a good and timely manner. That he's able to do those things that they ask him, and they don't even have to worry. And so I was able to learn a lot of different skills on driving the Gale. We had to take out dumpsters every single day, and we had to fill up the Gale with boxes, and then we then put the boxes inside dumpsters, and we had to fit inside this tiny little door. So it was really good practice for me to drive in and out of there. But overall, this internship was amazing. I learned a lot of new things, and I feel like I've gotten a lot of new friends and more connections inside the company so that I'm able to expand my knowledge. I'm able to expand on who I know. And that was my internship for HHI.